Once they know your next move, they've already won. In this video, discover how to stay 3 steps ahead by becoming the one no one can read or control. Most people think stability is a blessing. They wake up at the same time, take the same route to work, order the same coffee, talk in the same way and react in the same manner every time they are challenged. They think this makes them reliable, trustworthy, someone others can depend on. But in the game of power and influence, predictability is not a strength. It is a weakness that slowly becomes a cage. When others can read you like an open book, you give them the ability to control your story before you even speak. You think you are showing consistency, but what you are really doing is surrendering your freedom to act on your own terms. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He saw that the man who can be predicted is already defeated because his moves are visible before they happen. Imagine sitting at a chessboard and announcing every piece you plan to move. Your opponent does not have to be smarter, stronger, or faster than you. All they need to do is wait for you to do exactly what they knew you would do. That is how most people live their lives. They repeat themselves so often that others no longer have to wonder how they will act. They already know, and when people already know, they start planning against you. Predictability feels safe because it reduces conflict. You think if you always explain yourself, if you always follow the rules, if you always respond the same way to attacks, people will trust you and leave you alone. But the opposite happens. Predictability attracts challenges. When people know your pattern, they know how to trigger you. They know the words that will make you defensive, the situations that will make you anxious, the doubts that will make you over-explain. They can press the same buttons again and again because you never change the locks. Think about the person who always apologizes when questioned, even if they did nothing wrong. At first it looks polite, but soon everyone notices the pattern. They realize that no matter what they say, this person will bend, explain, and try to fix it. The predictable apology becomes an invitation to push further. Respect drains away because people see that they do not have to earn authority over you. You hand it to them by reacting the same way every time. On the other hand, unpredictability creates tension. It forces people to think twice before making a move against you. If they cannot predict how you will respond, they hesitate. And hesitation is the birthplace of power. Machiavelli knew that the man who can make others pause, even for a second, gains the upper hand. The predictable man loses it before the game even begins. The trap of predictability is that it feels noble, safe, and responsible. But it is a silent surrender. Every time you react the same way, you train the world to take you for granted. You teach people how to press you, how to use you, how to step around you without fear. Predictability may make you liked, but it will never make you respected. And without respect, safety is an illusion. The world does not admire the man who is always understood. It admires the man who cannot be easily read, the one who makes others wonder, the one who cannot be cornered. To break free from the trap of predictability is to take the first step toward real power. There is a common belief that the more you explain yourself, the more people will understand you and respect you. People think if they just add one more detail, one more reason, one more piece of evidence, others will finally see them in the right light. They chase clarity the way a desperate man chases water in the desert, believing it will save them. But what they do not realize is that the endless need to explain does not make them look strong or honest. It makes them look weak. The moment you over-clarify, you are telling the world that their opinion of you matters more than your own. Machiavelli understood this weakness. He saw that people who reveal too much of themselves become easy to control. When you put every card on the table, when you leave nothing hidden, you remove the only advantage you ever had in the game of influence, and that is mystery. Mystery makes people cautious. It forces them to pause before they speak against you. But when you always clarify, when you rush to correct, you take that mystery away. You give people the keys to your mind, and once they have the keys, they can open every door without fear. Think of the person who cannot stand being misunderstood. The moment someone twists their words, they panic. They rush to say, "That's not what I meant, let me explain, please don't take it the wrong way." At first it looks humble, even polite, but over time it drains their presence. People stop listening to their explanations and start seeing them as fragile, as someone who needs constant validation. And in power games, validation is the cheapest currency you can hold. Approval is easy to give, but it is never respected. Those who chase it always look smaller than those who let others think what they will. When you explain too much, you also invite doubt. The more words you add, the less certain you seem. Imagine someone accused of being arrogant. If they answer with a long speech about how they are really humble, hardworking, and misunderstood, no one believes them more. In fact, their eagerness to prove innocence makes the accusation feel true. But if they say nothing, if they hold stillness, if they allow silence to do the talking, suddenly the weight shifts. People begin to question the accuser instead. They wonder why the accused man is so calm. They wonder if he knows something they don't. Clarity has its place, but in the pursuit of power, clarity is often a trap. You do not need to be understood by everyone. You need to be respected by those who matter. And respect does not come from spilling every thought you have. It comes from holding back, from knowing when to let silence speak, from daring to be misunderstood without flinching. The more you try to make people see the real you, the more they see someone desperate to be seen. The less you try, the more they lean in, curious, cautious, unsure, and in that uncertainty lies your strength. The illusion of clarity is that it feels like control. You think that if you explain enough, you control the narrative, but in truth, you give the narrative away. You let others set the frame, and you scramble to fit inside it. Machiavelli knew better. He knew that the moment you stop needing to be understood, you begin to command respect. Because mystery is not weakness. Mystery is power. And the man who does not explain himself becomes larger than the man who never stops talking. People like to think they are in control when they understand you. They feel safe when they can predict how you will act, how you will respond, what you will say. Most of the time, people are not afraid of your strength, they are afraid of the unknown. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He saw that people fear what they cannot read, what they cannot place neatly in their minds. And because fear creates hesitation, it becomes one of the most powerful tools you can use without ever lifting a finger. When you are predictable, people grow bold. They know how to test you, how to speak to you, how to push you. But when you are unpredictable, when your silence or your sudden action does not match their expectations, something shifts in their mind. They begin to second-guess themselves. They hesitate before making a move against you because they cannot map the outcome. That hesitation is not weakness on your part, it is weakness on theirs. And in power games, even a small hesitation can mean the difference between winning and losing. Think about the people who always respond the same way to conflict. You know exactly what to expect. They will apologize, explain, defend, or fight back loudly. Because of this, they are easy to control. They are like an open book, and an open book can be read and used at will. Now picture someone who breaks this pattern. Sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they speak softly when everyone expects anger. Sometimes they strike hard when everyone expects silence. This unpredictability unsettles others because it forces them into confusion. They do not know where to step, and so they step carefully, and that caution gives you the upper hand. Confusion also creates stories in people's minds. When they cannot explain your behavior, they begin to invent reasons for it. They may believe you know more than you show, that you are planning something they cannot see, that you have strength they cannot measure. Whether or not any of this is true does not matter. What matters is that they believe it. Perception is more powerful than fact, and confusion feeds perception like fire feeds smoke. When people are unsure, they often overestimate your strength, and that alone is enough to tilt the balance of power in your favor. The weapon of confusion does not mean being chaotic or random. It means being deliberate in holding back, in breaking patterns, in controlling what others cannot predict. You do not need to act wildly to confuse people. You only need to act differently than what they expect. Even a pause, even a look, even silence in a moment when everyone thought you would explain yourself can be enough to unsettle the entire room. Because the mind hates not knowing, and when the mind cannot predict, it grows cautious. Machiavelli knew that the man who is too easy to read is already defeated, but the man who is unreadable forces others to move carefully around him. That carefulness is respect in disguise, and respect, once earned through confusion, is far more powerful than approval ever will be. The predictable man is managed. The unpredictable man is feared, and in that fear lies the soil where true power takes root. Every social interaction comes with a frame, a set of invisible lines that define who has the upper hand. A frame is the unspoken rule of who is leading and who is following, who is setting the tone and who is reacting. Most people never question these lines. They accept them the moment they are drawn, and by doing so, they give up control before the game even begins. This is what predictable people do. They walk into conversations, meetings, arguments, and let others dictate the terms. They let others decide the rules of engagement, and they play along because they think fitting in will keep them safe. But fitting in does not protect you. It weakens you. Machiavelli knew that power is never about following the lines. It is about bending them until they no longer matter. When someone throws an accusation at you, they are framing you as guilty, even if the words sound polite. When someone mocks you in public, they are framing you as lesser, as someone the group should laugh at. When someone questions your ideas in a meeting, they are framing themselves as the authority. Most people fall into the trap immediately. They defend themselves, they laugh awkwardly, they explain their ideas in more detail, all of which only confirm the frame that was set against them. The predictable person accepts the role and plays it out, never realizing they have already lost. Breaking the frame is what separates the powerful from the powerless. It is not about arguing harder or proving yourself right. It is about refusing to play inside the lines someone else drew for you. When someone insults you, the predictable reaction is to fight back or explain. Breaking the frame means you pause. You remain calm. You respond in a way that does not belong to their game. Maybe you look at them with amusement. Maybe you say something short that shifts the focus back to them. Maybe you say nothing at all. The point is that you do not step into the role they handed you. You reject the frame by not living inside it. This pause is more powerful than people realize. When you do not respond as expected, everyone in the room notices. The accuser expects a fight, the crowd expects a defense, but you give them neither. That silence, that delay, that unexpected response forces the room to hesitate, and hesitation is the seed of doubt. Suddenly the accuser looks unsure, the crowd looks to you instead of them, and the balance shifts. What looked like an attack now looks like insecurity on their part, and what looked like silence on your part now feels like control. The reason unpredictability is so dangerous is because it breaks these frames. It reminds people that they cannot draw lines around you, that they cannot control the way you move. Once you learn to break the frame, you no longer need to argue for respect. Respect comes naturally because people see that no one can corner you. They hesitate before they test you, and hesitation is already the beginning of defeat. Machiavelli would tell you that the man who accepts the frame becomes small, but the man who breaks it becomes untouchable. And once you are untouchable, the game changes in your favor without you needing to say a single word. Most people mistake unpredictability for chaos. They think being unpredictable means acting without reason, switching moods or making wild choices. But that is not power, that is noise. True unpredictability is rhythm, a careful dance of silence and shock where every step is chosen with intent. Machiavelli knew that control does not come from constant action, but from deliberate timing. The power is not in doing everything, but in doing the one thing no one expects at the exact moment it carries the most weight. Silence is the first half of this rhythm. In a world where everyone rushes to speak, to defend, to argue, silence becomes unsettling. When someone insults you, they expect words to fly back, they expect fire, they expect you to explain. When you give them silence instead, the air grows heavy. People begin to wonder, why didn't he answer? Is he hiding something? Does he know more than he shows? That pause forces them to fill in the blanks with their own imagination, and the imagination is always more powerful than words. Silence bends the frame. It makes others question themselves. It turns an attack into an echo that bounces back onto the one who started it. Shock is the second half of the rhythm. It is not constant aggression, it is not endless reaction. It is a strike delivered when no one saw it coming. The man who always fights back is easy to prepare for. The man who rarely fights, who holds his calm, who allows the room to underestimate him, becomes dangerous the moment he decides to act. A short phrase, a sudden move, a sharp redirection delivered after long stillness, lands with the weight of thunder. It does not just surprise, it dominates, because the contrast between calm silence and sudden action multiplies the effect. Think of a negotiation. One side pushes, questions, and presses, expecting resistance. If you argue back at every step, you play their game. But if you hold still, if you let their words float unanswered, tension builds. Then, at the right moment, when the room has grown used to your silence, you deliver one sharp question that turns the focus on them. The shock of it freezes them because it was not part of their script. That is how rhythm works. Silence lulls them into comfort. Shock breaks their balance. This dance is not random, it is deliberate. The unpredictable man is not reckless, he is composed. He knows when to let stillness do the work, and he knows when to break that stillness with a move so precise it leaves others scrambling. The weak man reacts immediately. The strong man waits until the moment is ripe. Silence makes people underestimate you. Shock reminds them why they should not. Together they form a rhythm that keeps you unreadable. Machiavelli saw that people fear what they cannot predict, and nothing is harder to predict than someone who can hold silence like stone and strike like lightning. It is not the noise that makes him powerful. It is the rhythm, the contrast, the deliberate dance of quiet and force. Those who master this dance never have to explain themselves, because the silence speaks for them, and the shock reminds the world that still waters hide the most dangerous storms. Power does not only exist in action, it lives in perception. The unpredictable man understands this better than anyone. He knows that every move he makes is only half the game. The other half is what people imagine about him when he does nothing at all. When you are unreadable, people begin to fill in the gaps themselves, and what they imagine is often larger, darker, and stronger than anything you could have said outright. This is how unpredictability transforms into something greater. It becomes an aura, a presence that follows you everywhere you go. An aura is not built by being loud or constantly proving yourself. It is built by restraint, by silence, by the careful use of shock at just the right moment. People notice patterns, and when they cannot find one in you, they start to believe there must be more beneath the surface. They assume you know something they don't. They assume you are holding cards they cannot see. It is this assumption that makes them cautious, and caution is power without you having to lift a finger. Machiavelli understood that men do not only fear what you do, they fear what you might do, and that possibility is more terrifying than certainty. Think about someone who never explains himself. He listens, he observes, he stays still while others rush to speak. At first, people may think he is simply quiet, but soon they begin to wonder why. They start whispering to themselves, does he know something we don't? Is he planning something? Is he stronger than he appears? That wonder grows into myth, and myth grows into fear. Not the fear of what you have done, but the fear of what you could do if you chose to. When you become unpredictable, you force people to overestimate you. They give you more credit than you might deserve, and they hand you more space than you even asked for. They begin to hold back not because you demanded it, but because they cannot risk being wrong about you. Every room you walk into feels heavier, not because you spoke, but because of what you left unsaid. That is aura. Aura is different from reputation. Reputation is built on what people think they know about you. Aura is built on what they cannot figure out. Reputation can be attacked, argued against, or destroyed with evidence. Aura cannot. Aura lives in silence and in imagination, and imagination cannot be pinned down. This is why aura is more powerful than explanation, more lasting than defense. The moment you stop trying to be understood and instead become unreadable, you move beyond reputation and into myth. The unpredictable man does not need to fight every battle because his presence fights for him. People hesitate before they cross him, not because of what he has done, but because of what he might be capable of. That hesitation alone changes the game. It tilts the balance without any visible effort. Machiavelli knew that true power is not forcing people to submit. It is making them submit themselves before the fight even begins. And the way to do that is not through endless action, but through aura, the silent myth that grows around a man who refuses to be predictable. Relationships, whether in business, love, or friendship, often fall into the trap of predictability. At first, predictability feels safe, even comforting. People want to know what to expect. They want to believe they can read you, that you will always act the same way. But over time, that safety becomes weakness. When others know your every move before you make it, they stop valuing you. Familiarity drains respect, and respect is what keeps relationships alive. Without it, people take you for granted. They know they can press, they know you will bend, they know exactly where your limits are, and once your limits are visible, they can be crossed without fear. Machiavelli understood that this law does not stop at politics or war. It lives inside every human connection. In business, if your colleagues know you will always explain yourself, always compromise, always follow the same patterns, they lose the weight of caution around you. They do not pause before questioning you, because they already know how you will react. But if you keep an edge of unpredictability, if you sometimes remain silent when pressed, or shift the focus instead of defending yourself, you remind them that you cannot be controlled. That pause you create forces them to treat you differently. They lean toward you carefully, unsure if this is the moment you will strike or the moment you will simply let silence win. That uncertainty gives you gravity. In love, predictability is often confused with loyalty. People think being completely transparent, always explaining, always reassuring, always reacting the same way, builds closeness. But true closeness does not come from predictability. It comes from presence and strength. When you are too predictable in love, you stop being attractive. Mystery fades, excitement fades, respect fades. Your partner may care for you, but they no longer feel the energy of being around someone who holds power. But if you carry a calm unpredictability, not in the form of games, but in the form of strength, you remain magnetic. When you do not react to every emotional outburst, when you do not panic to explain yourself, when you hold your ground with calm detachment, you force your partner to rise to your level. You are not cold, you are steady. And steady with a touch of mystery is far more powerful than steady with endless reassurance. Friendships, too, are shaped by this law. The friend who is always available, who always agrees, who always explains, becomes the friend others stop respecting. They are liked, yes, but they are not valued. Their predictability makes them background noise, always there, always known. But the friend who carries a sense of unpredictability, who cannot always be read, who sometimes answers with silence instead of explanation, is treated differently. People lean toward them, curious, cautious, careful not to push too far. That subtle caution is respect, and respect is what keeps relationships balanced. Unpredictability in relationships does not mean being cruel or distant. It means holding an aura that cannot be fully mapped. It means not giving away every thought, not rushing to explain, not being so easy to read that people stop feeling your presence. When people feel a little uncertain about where they stand with you, they pay more attention. They lean in. They treat you with more care. And that insecurity, far from weakening the bond, strengthens it. Because in that space of mystery, respect grows. And respect, not predictability, is what makes relationships last. History is full of examples of men who held power for a moment, but lost it because they were too easy to read. They were not always weak. Many were strong, clever, even brilliant, but they made the fatal mistake of becoming predictable. Once their enemies understood their patterns, their rise turned into their downfall. A man who can be mapped is a man who can be defeated. And this is a truth that repeats itself in every generation. Machiavelli saw it clearly. He knew that once people can anticipate you, your end is not a question of if, but when. Think of the general who uses the same tactic in every battle. The first time it looks clever. The second time, it looks dependable. By the third, his enemies are waiting for it, and what once was strength becomes a trap. The same is true in life. The man who always explains himself becomes the man others know they can push. The man who always forgives becomes the man others know they can hurt without consequence. The man who always reacts in anger becomes the man others know how to provoke. Predictability turns your habits into weapons that can be used against you. The collapse of the predictable is slow at first, almost invisible. People start with small tests. A rival throws an insult, a colleague questions his ideas, a friend pushes his limits. Each time, the predictable man responds the way everyone knew he would. He defends, he explains, he reacts, and each time he teaches the world that he has no surprises, Soon he is not respected, he is managed. He does not inspire caution, he inspires strategies designed to box him in. His predictability becomes a roadmap that others follow straight to his downfall. In politics, in business, in relationships, it is the same story. Leaders who make themselves too clear, too open, too obvious do not last. Their followers may love them, but their enemies dismantle them with ease because they can see the moves before they are made. Lovers who give away every thought, every plan, every emotion, often find themselves abandoned, not because they were unkind, but because they were no longer exciting, no longer mysterious, no longer respected. Friends who are always available, always saying yes, always explaining themselves, slowly fade into the background of other people's lives. They collapse not with a fight, but with a sigh because predictability made them invisible. Machiavelli understood that survival belongs to those who remain unreadable, not because they are chaotic, but because they know the value of mystery. The unreadable man forces others to move carefully, to pause, to second-guess themselves. That pause is what keeps him safe. It is not that he never makes mistakes. It is that no one can be sure when or how he will act, so they cannot move against him with confidence. His power grows not only from what he does, but from the uncertainty surrounding him. The collapse of the predictable is a warning. It reminds us that strength alone is not enough. Intelligence alone is not enough. Even good intent is not enough. If you can be fully mapped, you can be fully controlled. The moment the world no longer hesitates around you, you are already in decline. To avoid that fate, you must remain unreadable. You must keep enough mystery to force others into caution, because in caution lies survival, and in survival lies power. The highest form of power is not in being loud or aggressive, it is in becoming untouchable. To reach this point, you must move beyond the need to prove yourself, beyond the trap of defending yourself, beyond the hunger to be understood. You must learn to hold stillness like a mask and wield unpredictability like a blade. This is not about being random or reckless. It is about reminding the world that you are not bound by habit, that you are not ruled by reflex, that every move you make is chosen with intent. When people cannot predict your next step, they cannot build traps around you. And when they cannot trap you, they cannot control you. That is the essence of Machiavelli's law, the true power of being unpredictable. To become the storm is to embody calm and danger at the same time. On the surface you appear steady, collected, unbothered, but beneath that stillness lives the possibility of sudden force. People feel it even when you say nothing. They sense that you are not like others who panic to explain, who scramble to react. Your presence alone carries a weight, because no one knows if your silence will stay silence or if it will turn into a strike. That uncertainty becomes its own kind of dominance. People hesitate around you not because of what you have done, but because of what you might do. This is why stillness is your mask. It allows you to watch without revealing. It forces others to show their hand while you hold yours close. It is the quiet before the storm, the moment that unsettles everyone else because they do not know if thunder is coming. And when you finally do move, when you finally break the silence, the impact lands heavier than it would have otherwise, because it was not expected, because it was chosen with precision, because it carried the weight of all the moments you held back. Unpredictability is your blade. It cuts not with chaos, but with timing. A word spoken at the exact moment the room has grown comfortable. A decision made when no one expected you to act. A refusal to respond when everyone assumed you would. Each of these is a strike. Not wild, not frantic, but sharp, controlled, devastating. The man who is predictable can be mapped, managed, and cornered. The man who is unpredictable cannot be contained. He is like a storm that appears suddenly, impossible to prepare for, impossible to fight head-on. When you reach this level, you stop playing defense altogether. You no longer care to explain, to justify, to smooth things over. You live above the noise because the noise cannot touch you. Your presence alone carries myth. People talk about you more than you talk about yourself. They fill in the blanks you leave empty. They respect you not only for what you have done, but for what they believe you could do. That is aura, and aura is the crown of the untouchable. The final evolution is not about proving strength. It is about becoming something beyond attack. A storm does not defend itself. It does not argue. It does not explain. It arrives, it unsettles, it changes the ground it touches. When you become the storm, you no longer need to chase power. Power bends toward you because people fear misjudging you. They fear assuming too much. They fear the silence that hides the strike. And in that fear, you are free. Free from traps, free from control, free from the weight of explanation. This is where Machiavelli's law leads, to the power of being unpredictable, to the calm face that hides thunder, to the man who cannot be cornered because no one can see where he will go next. Maybe this video helped you see yourself or someone you know in a different way. Feel free to let us know via a like or in the comments. And if you want more wisdom and guidance in becoming a better version of yourself, subscribe now. This is the moment to start becoming the person you really want to be.